Scarlett Johansson, producers Parsley Mayo and Chelsea Winstanley, and the writer and director of JoJo Rabbit, Taika Waititi. So Sam Rockwell, did I miss anybody? We have a few minutes to talk a little bit about the film up here. Taika, I want to start with you, and it's such an original vision. I just have to ask, where did the story of JoJo Rabbit come from for you?
Okay, well, real talk. My mum read this book by Christine Lawrence, and it's called Caging Skies. And she was explaining the book to me. She said, I'm reading this book, it's such a great concept. This boy and the youth, and finds out his mother's hiding this girl in his attic, and changes his whole worldview. And the way she described it, I was like, wow, this is going to be incredible. What a great film idea. And then I read the book, and the book is incredible. It's a very good book, but it wasn't exactly like how my mum described it. And so when I started writing it, I started tapping more into the way that she sort of explained this book, which was kind of wrong, but how she actually did it. And then, then over the years about mum, and then this imaginary friend character came into the story as well, and a lot more of the humour, but essentially the core of that story about a young boy who is being indoctrinated, has to learn to understand and befriend this. But basically, the idea was kind of like having a monster in the attic, but it's just a human. So that's kind of what the angle was.
There are sometimes unwritten rules about what you can and can't show in movies and what you can and can't be funny in movies as well. And you seem to be free to break those rules, which is why we love you. Was there ever any fear, any concern about just what the line was in terms of telling the story and what you could show on screen?
Yeah, a little bit. The character for me, basically the film is more of a love letter to mothers, and especially solo mothers. I grew up as a single mum, and so I didn't realise until I had my own children that she would have done anything for me, and she did. She did, and that's why Scarlett's character is for me one of the most important elements in the entire film, and. Probably the only grounded character, and the only one who actually lives in reality, even though she's a clown, but she's trying to save her kid. So for me, growing up, I've always often fantasized about father figures and wanting that kind of presence in my life, and I think it's no different for a boy growing up with a solo mother in Nazi Germany. I want a dad, and also my idol is this buffoon. So I'm going to mix the two, and that's where that came from.
I want to ask the actors about finding the right tone for the film, because obviously getting the right tone between that wild satire, that farcical element, and the real heart, the emotion of the film that comes in a bit later on is really important, and you have to have the right tone in each scene. Sometimes they're played fully for comedy, sometimes for real drama. How, can I ask all of you, maybe starting with you, Scarlett, how did you find the right tone for your particular character?
I don't know, I mean, I guess, yeah, life is kind of, it's met all different things at one time, you know. I think there can be a lot of, there's a bittersweetness, I think, to the character, and you know, she's really full of life, I think. You know, that was something that Taika and I talked a lot about, how she just is absolutely in the middle of her life, you know, and so you really miss her when she's gone. And you know, I think she is, you know, like Taika said, she's a clown, and she's sometimes kind of a sad clown, and sometimes she's, you know, just clowning around with her kid just to bring levity into a really dire situation. And you know, again, I think there's, you know, I didn't necessarily think about a specific tone because she's so colorful, you know. I think it was many different tones, I guess, at once.
Let me ask the other grown-up actors first, and then I'm going to come back to you because I have some special questions for you guys.
Grown-up only answers.
The answers don't have to be grown-up. Sam, and just in terms of the tone, you've played kind of wild, farcical satire before, but there's you know, your character has a lot of different shades to him as well.
Yeah, I just thought that I talked to Taika and thought if Bill Murray was a disillusioned Nazi, that's how I was going to play it. And I think Taika liked that idea.
Yeah, I did, and sadly he was unavailable.
Makes sense.
Well, I don't think it's going to come as a shock to anyone that I obviously had watched Raiders of the Lost Ark just before. Before I made this film, and the great Ronald Lacey performance as the Nazi Gestapo officer in that. And I think but seriously, what struck me about that, even as a kid watching Raiders of the Lost Ark, was that he could seem comic. You know, if you remember, he grabs that medallion and his hand burns, and he kind of puts his hand in the snow and we're like chortling. But later he's very scary, he's very villainous and genuinely terrifying. And so that to me seemed like a great kind of guide, you know, that you can be kind of comic, but that every so often you just turn on that chill factor, and that hopefully that came across.
Yes, what was the question? Sorry,
It's really about tone originally. It can go anywhere from this.
yeah, well, I mean, my character kind of, you know, was definitely a kind of more comedic part of the piece, and which I thoroughly enjoyed. But just by what Taika was saying, you know, I think that's definitely what the film is kind of about, and something that kind of hadn't really become obvious to me. That it's about the you know, Roman's relationship with his mother, and I was kind of thinking about more the other side of it, and his father not really being there. But my mum's out in the audience tonight, and I just want to say, I love you, Mum.
All right, now I have questions for you two, because you really are the heart of the movie, and you can feel it. I think what the audience feels is what you guys are going through in the movie. And these are big roles for you, so can you talk a little bit about what it was like to play this role, and how did Taika, was he helpful to you at all?
You be very careful right now.
What was it like to play the role?
Nerve-wracking. Really, really nerve-wracking. It's quite scary because he's quite a fragile character and it's quite hard to get him wrong. But he's an interesting character because it's a side of the war that it's a dark and quite mysterious and creepy side of the war. And I don't know, I'm going anywhere with this, I don't know.
Honest, I like that. But it's nerve-wracking.
he's a traumatized character and he's fragile. And I'm just going to describe him like.
And what about your character as well? When she's going through some very horrifying parts of her life for a young girl.
I just want to quickly apologise that I've lost my voice from all the excitement, so I sound very husky. But yeah, I think same as Roman, it was very nerve-wracking taking on this role, and I wanted first and foremost to approach it with a lot of sensitivity and to go into it with having put as much research and thought into it as possible. However, the first time I actually met Taika in person and sat down with him, he was like, forget all that, watch The Heathers and Mean Girls.
Yeah, I like her the as long as she would have a life at high school, she was cool, and now she used to.
The point of it was, Alistair, is that she had a life before this disgusting tragedy happened to her, and I think it was important to show, present her as a figure of hope and show that she's a strong, brave, and really staunch girl. And yeah, I think that was for me the most important part.
Taika, I want to ask you, I don't know if everyone's noticed, but the problem of learned hate has not exactly gone away since the Second World War. What does JoJo Rabbit have to say to that problem now?
Well, I think in 1933, when Hitler got into power, little by little, every single day or every week, there was just one small change and one thing that people said, that's wrong, but it wasn't big enough to really get everyone up in arms, and it wasn't big enough until it became too late. And I feel like today there's happening small little things here. Oh, but they get to say what they want. It's only like 10 people over there that said that. It's only like 200 people at this little march thing. But the more you ignore it, and the more you think we're at the height of human civilization and advancement, that could never happen again, which is exactly what they said in 1933. Nothing can be as bad as the First World War. It's that ignorance and the arrogance to forget and allow ourselves to forget is really what is basically is a big human flaw. So I think it's very important to keep telling these stories again and again. They didn't say, let's never forget, just as a joke. So we have to keep remembering and keep finding new and inventive ways of telling the same story and teaching ourselves and our children lessons for how to grow and how to move forward, unified and with love into the future.